Have you ever thought about the fact that there are stories so strong, so deep, that they seem to have been ripped straight from life itself and written with tears? The pain is so raw, so palpable, that it transcends the page and grips your soul, demanding attention, demanding a choice. What I am about to share with you now is not fiction, not a fairy tale. It is not the kind of soft, comforting narrative you hear in Sunday school. It's the harsh, unflinching truth carved from the darkest corners of human experience. It is flesh, blood, pain, and yes, it is also the dazzling, undeniable brilliance of victory. It's the narrative that begins in the suffocating blackness of the night, where hope seems a distant, cruel memory, but ends bathed in the glorious, healing light of faith. My name is Estelle, and before I continue, I want to be perfectly clear. I am not just telling you a story. I am opening a scarred, fragile part of my life, a wound that only the passage of time and the grace of God have allowed to close. I ask you, listen to this testimony not as if it were just another video on your feed, but as if it were a revelation whispered directly into your spirit. Because the moment you open your heart to every word, allowing the raw truth of survival to penetrate, something powerful may begin to change inside you. My journey did not begin with lullabies or joyful embraces. It began in the heart of the American Lowcountry, South Carolina, a place steeped in history, tradition, and quiet isolation. It's a land where the cypress trees weep and the Spanish moss hangs heavy, carrying not just the humidity, but the weight of generations of secrets. In our community, tradition was a chain, often masquerading as duty. My motherhood, which should have been a time of fullness, soon became marked by the relentless pressure of rejection, the terror of domestic violence, the crushing hand of tyranny, and the ever-present shadow of fear. I had to witness things no mother should ever see. I watched my beautiful, vibrant daughters treated not as beloved children, but as bargaining chips in cruel negotiations for forced marriages, transactions where their futures were traded for land, money, or the simple order my husband, Jerome, craved. I lived through the desperate harshness of poverty, the kind that gnaws at your stomach and strips you of dignity. I spent countless sleepless nights, huddled over a small body burning with fever, silently praying, bargaining with a God whose silence often felt like abandonment. And in the end, I faced the deepest pain a soul can endure, the death of a child, forcing me to bury my own daughter with my bare hands in the cold, unforgiving Lowcountry soil. But please, don't misunderstand. Do not think this is merely a testament to sorrow. No, it is also a story of furious promise, of desperate escape into the night, of surviving relentless persecution and finding miraculous shelter where I thought none existed. It is a narrative of hope and eventual reconstruction. It is about discovering that there is indeed such a thing as marriage for true, untainted love. It is about realizing that survival is possible for those who refuse to surrender their soul. It is about learning, line by excruciating line, that faith in God is stronger than any oppressive silence, and that true deliverance always comes the moment we finally rise up, with the last flicker of courage left in our hearts. That's why I tell you, do not leave this video before the end. Every part of this account, every tear, every scar, every moment of fear is like a mirror that may reveal a forgotten strength inside you. Perhaps you have faced deep wounds in your own family. Perhaps you know too well the heavy weight of social judgment and malicious gossip that tries to keep you chained. Perhaps you look at your life today and think there is absolutely no way out. that the darkness is your inevitable destiny. But I am here to testify that you are wrong. There is a way out. There is new life. There is victory. The same hand that pulled me out of the Lowcountry darkness is reaching for you right now. So, before we move on, I ask you for an act of solidarity, an act of faith. Subscribe to this channel right now. This isn't just about following videos. It's about forming an unbreakable chain of faith, testimonies, and transformation. Every subscription is one more powerful step in spreading messages of hope, so that more people who feel exactly as you or I once did find the strength not to give up. Take a deep breath. Come into this raw story with me and get ready. After hearing this testimony, you will never look at prayer, faith, and the ferocious, enduring strength of a mother in the same way again. Asterisk, have you ever thought about the fact that there are stories so strong, so deep, that they seem to have been ripped straight from life itself and written with tears? What I am about to share with you now is not fiction. It's flesh, blood, pain, and it's also victory. It's the narrative that begins in the darkest night but ends bathed in the light of faith. My name is Estelle, and before I continue, I invite you, listen to this testimony as a revelation. The moment you open your heart to every word, something may begin to change inside you, too. My journey did not begin with lullabies, but with sorrow. My motherhood, which should have been fullness, was soon marked by rejection, domestic violence, tyranny, and fear in the isolated plains of Lowcountry, South Carolina. I watched my daughters treated like bargaining chips in forced marriage negotiations. I lived through the harshness of poverty. I spent sleepless nights caring for a baby burning with fever, and I faced the deepest pain, burying my own daughter with my bare hands. But this is not just a story of grief. It is a story of promise, escape, survival of persecution, finding shelter, and reconstruction. It is about discovering that faith in God is stronger than any silence. Do not leave before the end. You will never look at prayer, faith, and the strength of a mother the same way again. Subscribe now. Join our chain of faith and transformation. Every subscription is a step toward spreading hope. Asterisk, the truth is, my family was never what the Lowcountry community thought. To outsiders, we looked like any other household. But behind closed doors, our walls echoed with violence, threats, and a tyranny that crushed both body and soul. I thought motherhood would protect me from despair, that a child in my arms would soften the heart of Jerome, my husband, who carried more bitterness than love. But I was wrong. The night my youngest, Celeste, was born, the cold chilled me to the bone. I remember the wind whistling through the pine trees, a sound that seemed like the earth itself was mourning. I held my frail baby, fighting for every breath, but Jerome entered the room without wonder. His voice was sharp. We will not cling to a sick child. I don't feed problems. My tears fell as he sentenced. She is yours, not mine. My eldest daughter, Ruth, already knew how to survive there, vanishing into corners, becoming invisible when Jerome's anger filled the rooms, while Celeste burned with fever, her forehead hot beneath my trembling hands. Jerome began speaking of Ruth as a bargaining chip. The Sanders are looking for a wife for their son, Robert. They have land. If the deal goes through, our lives will return to order. Deal! That word rang like chains falling on the floor. I begged. She's just a girl. He turned slowly, his eyes merciless, and replied, She is what I say she is. Fear settled into our walls. I saw Ruth shrinking, Her childhood negotiated like cattle, and poverty suffocated us. Jerome spent what little we had on drink, returning with whiskey breath and heavy fists of rage. Asterisk the days that followed felt like walking barefoot over broken glass. Celis fever clung to her like a shadow. Jerome's plans for Ruth grew more sinister. In 2 weeks, she will be his wife. Enough foolishness. I knew silence would kill me just as surely as fists. I needed a miracle. Then came the night Ruth tried to escape. I helped her open the door, but hope was short-lived. Before dawn, she was dragged back, her arms marked by the man. Jerome just looked at Ruth the way a butcher looks at livestock. In 2 weeks, you will be his wife. No more foolishness. That night, I watched Celeste burn with fever and Ruth clutch a wedding dress like a funeral shroud. Our home had become both prison and coffin. The breaking point came in the middle of the night. Celis' fever suddenly lifted, and for a fleeting second, hope surged in me. But as I held her tiny body, I realized she was too still, too light. The fire had gone out, not because she was healed, but because there was nothing left to burn. My baby was gone. The scream never left my throat. I rocked her lifeless body in silence. Jerome stood in the doorway, expressionless. At least that's one less mouth to feed. He turned and walked away. Something shattered inside me, but something else was born. I buried Celeste myself, with my bare hands, in the cold earth behind the house. As I covered her small body, I made a promise. No other child of mine will be buried alive in a non-chosen marriage or in a house built on tyranny. Grandma May had left me her worn Bible and the promise I made with earth, blood, and tears became my fuel.